So I've been thinking a lot about transformation and how it happens and the revelation and how we grow and how we become something new, become that which we have come here to be. How does that really happen? And we offer these classes and people go through the classes, and I've got these 9 folks who are now in the advanced consciousness studies class, and they are incredible, right? They showed up after going through all the classes with my wife and Tammy, and they learned what they needed to learn, so that by the time they got here to this class, they were ready. They are so ready. I mean, you could feel it in the energy of the folks that are in there to now fly. And it's beautiful because that's what I care about, right? What I really care about is transforming lives and being a part of that in any way I can. And so I get up here on Sundays and I teach classes along with my wife, and we do what we can, but the purpose of it all is not just for entertainment purposes. It's not even just for feel-good purposes, right? Because I know a lot of folks show up because they just want to feel good, and Sunday feels so good here, and it does. I love how it feels here on Sunday. We got this band that kicks butt. Right? We got greeters that are ready to hug you and should bring you in love and warmth. We got a social group, team that has got the hot coffee ready for you and good to go. I mean, we've got presiders who know what they're doing. We had practitioners that come up here. I mean, this is quite a show we put on, isn't it? But it's all just to get you in the door so that you have an opportunity to then transform your life. Otherwise, it's just entertainment. It's entertainment. Which is fine. You get to decide that, right? Each of you gets to decide how you want to use what it is we're actually offering here. But there is something so incredible possible. There is just something so large here going on that shows up in my life, and Ash's life, and the lives of those who are moving through with these teachings that is just so beyond extraordinary. So, the latest saga in my life. As many of you know, I went to be with my high school buddies last week. We call it Boys Weekend, and that's what we do. We get together and act like boys, right? And the key in this teaching is practice. And it doesn't matter what you're doing, there's going to be opportunities for practice. Whatever it is, opportunities for practice show up, right? So my first opportunity on my trip to go visit my friends was on the airplane. My wife had paid extra for me to sit in a seat with extra leg room. But the seat, first of all, had no bottom. I mean, it was like sitting on a block. And the back didn't budge. And this was a red eye, so I was really hoping to get some sleep, right? Practice. Time for practice. Instead of getting in the past, I might have gotten all wired up about, we paid extra for this seat. We paid extra for this. Instead, I remembered that for the past 15 years, about 15 years now, I have been practicing a meditation at bedtime so that when my mind is driving me nuts, I can quiet it down. It quiets down itself through the meditation, and I fall asleep. And I thought, well, it works when my mind's going crazy. Let's see how it does when I'm physically not feeling so good about the seat I'm sitting in. And sure enough, I got 2 hours worth of sleep. Practice. Took 15 years. Practice. Wasn't like I tried it once, right? Practice. Did it again on the second flight. Got there, wasn't feeling so bad because boys picked me up. And so what happened was, the next thing that happened was two of my buddies got sick like the day before we were getting together. So there were 3 of us. Now, when there's 5 of us, my one buddy who has never helped out with anything that we're doing doesn't stand out so much. When there's 3 of us, he stands out a little more. What we were doing, we were visiting my one buddy's house he had just built in Wilmington, North Carolina, gorgeous house. And it turns out that he is a gourmet chef. The meals he served were over the top. They were extraordinary. It's like, what are we going to do from now on? All we want to do is go back to Jack's house because he's going to make us meals like that. The thing is then he looked at my friend and I, the other friend and myself, and said, who's going to clean up? Practice. Time for practice. So instead of getting into this whole thing that could have blown up the weekend and made my buddy wrong and this and that, I got up and it was my job all weekend to clean up after these gorgeous meals. There was a time I would not have done it so well. Practice. I couldn't even recognize myself how easily I stepped into just being the guy okay, this is going to be my job for the weekend. Cleaning up after his cooking. Okay. And I did it all weekend long, and I did it well. Practice, right? And I felt really good about it. The thing about it is instead of getting all resentful and tight inside about my other friend not helping at all, I was able to just go, wow, look at me, just being able to be cool with this. Look at how much I've changed because this was not the guy I was. But that happened because of practice. So then we have this great weekend. And then on the way back, my first flight is late. And so by the time we land, I have 20 minutes to get to my next flight and go through customs. And so the first thing I did was make sure that I was in practice. I wasn't praying for making it to my next flight. I was praying for staying in a place of centeredness inside myself, that however I behaved was going to be in a good way. Because there was a time I would have pushed people out of my way, and I would have been yelling at people. Really, I was that guy. I was the guy you never wanted to run into in a line. And this time I was going to make sure I wasn't. And so I just centered myself, was clear, and then I started running, right? Because I'm still going to move. A shaman once said, don't rush, move quickly. And there's a big difference. Emotionally, you can feel the difference. So every time I felt myself rushing, I'd stop. I stopped. I did it like 3 or 4 times. I had to stop because I could feel my shoulders go up, feel myself starting to get intense. And I'm like, hold on, that's not who I want to be. I know where that leads. Right? Once you start getting there, you know where that leads. Nothing good. And so I kept centering myself, and then I waited online, and I just knew that my life works because I know it works whether I make that plane or not. I know it works whether I make that plane or not. I just stayed centered the whole way, but it took practice. It took me reminding myself over and over and over and over. That's the thing about it, right? If we're really going to get into this practice, if we're really going to dive into what this is, we got to be willing to put it to work as many moments as the day as we can. This isn't just for Sundays. This isn't just for in the morning when you do your meditation. All day, in the moment. Dr. Holmes said, to abandon the truth in your hour of need is to not understand the truth. Well, here I am in my hour of need, wanting to make sure I'm understanding the truth. And that's what I did. All the way to the plane, and I made it. Without any behaving badly or getting out of hand or getting, just handling myself the entire way. I made it because my life works. If I hadn't made it, that would have meant there was another flight that I would have gotten on and I still would have made it home, right? That's the thing about it. Once you get into a place of practice around trusting life, when you truly get into that place of practice around trusting life, you transform. I am not the same guy. I love that about myself. It's my favorite part about myself is that I am not the same guy. And I marvel at that. I marvel at that almost every morning when I look at myself in the mirror. I do. I marvel at it. Look at me. Look at the life I'm leading. I mean, you guys wanted me I get to get up here every Sunday and talk to you about my life and what's going on. It's amazing to me that people want to sit and listen to this is what happened to me this week. I marvel at it. And that's what I know is possible for everyone, to marvel at your life, to marvel at it, to have it be at that kind of level. I want this for each and every one of you. That's why I'm so dedicated to this teaching and dedicated to you and care so much. I know there are people that go, God, he's talking about classes again. I know that there are people who feel that way, but I really want you to feel what I'm feeling. Experience life at this level. This is really something. And I was suicidal at 14. The difference for me is just so extraordinary that I'm screaming from the raftertop, you really want to experience life like this. To just love it, to just love, to not be able to can't wait and to see what the next day will bring, to be that engaged with the people, like when somebody calls me up and I feel like, okay, I can't wait. I get these phone calls, right, for folks who want to get together, sit and have coffee or go for a walk or do this. And I look so forward to that. And I was so antisocial as a kid. As a young adult, I was so antisocial. And now I can't wait to get these calls and get to go out with you guys and walk around and talk and, talk about our lives. Get to know each other. Engagement, intimacy. It means so much to me now in a way that it never did. And it's energizing. So, practice. So then there was, and I watched Ash's talk, and it was amazing. Did you love her talk last week or what? And so one of my buddies who is really not into this sort of thing walks by as Ash is talking and actually stops and listens and goes, and then he went on a little bit later, but he said, I'm going to listen to the rest of that talk. And I'll bet he did. So this week, this was a fascinating week for me. About a couple weeks ago, I found out that I had made some assumptions about who was going to handle the food for the volunteer coordinator, the volunteer appreciation dinner, and learned that actually it was going to be me. And, on one hand, I love milestones, right? Doing things I've never done before. I've never cooked for 60 people before. I had no idea how to get this done. None. And I thought, okay, that's pretty cool. I get to do something I have no idea how to do. And so instead of freaking out about it, I was like, okay, where do I begin? Well, I began by calling Norm. He cooks for, anywhere between 7 and 20 people every Sunday, so he's got to have some idea about this. Him and I had the best time. We had a great time just talking about the menu, and then we had these armchair quarterbacks called our wives who kept saying, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And some of the ideas were good. And Yeah, I'll be hearing about that later. But we had fun. It was fun. We went shopping at Costco. We got the cakes. We got this. I went to Safeway. There was no, I never felt any stress about it. I didn't get all wound up about any of it. It was just like, okay, here's the next thing. And the wives would point out, well, you forgot this and you forgot that. And they were right. And so we went and handled that. And they had some really good ideas about using this or using that. And so, because we had 3 different people to cook for. We had the normal folks. And then there were the gluten-free and the veggies. Not that they're not normal. Well, I don't know. We all have our own, ways of looking at this stuff. Anyway, so I had 3 different things to prepare and think about and figure out. Did that with Norm. We got all that squared away. And all week long. And I could feel there were times when I was getting a little stressed out. I could feel there were times I was getting a little testy with my wife. And she would point that out. And then I'd go, practice. Time for practice. Right? Because it doesn't stop. It just never stops. It's only us that thinks, I'm too busy to practice now. We're the ones that do that. But it isn't actually what's going to support us in transforming our lives. Or being really supportive of those who were looking to be served. Right? I wanted to do this in a good way. I wanted to make sure that the food had good energy in it, had love in it. Had that feeling that we really appreciate you and want to support you. And I wanted that to be in the food. And it doesn't get in the food if I'm stressed out, if I'm pissed off, if I'm this or anything else besides centered, whole, and complete. And so that's where I had to keep coming back to, right? All week long. And sure enough, the thing went off great. People seemed to really have a good time, right? On Friday night. And it really happened that way because of spiritual practice. It didn't happen that way because Norm and I hustled and this and that. We did, but that isn't what made it. What made it was that we were centered, that we had joy in what we were doing. There was so much joy around it. Now I know why you two love doing it so much. There was so much joy around it that was really fun. And, I don't know if I want to do it again next year. But it was fun, and so I got to have something that I love in my life, which is milestones. I love milestones. I love doing things I've never done before. So here's the kicker, right? While it was about 5 o'clock. I'm 5:30. I'm putting the lasagnas in the oven, making sure they're cooked in time for 7 o'clock, and I get a phone call. The phone call is from a woman who says, I need you to come to the hospital to do last rites for somebody who's dying. That was the call I got Friday at 5 while I'm putting lasagnas in the oven. So I had to shift gears. Now, just to be clear, that's also something I've never done before, except for my own dad and my mom. So I guess I have for them, but this was the first time I got a call around this. And so it took a lot of shifting gears for me in that moment. And I could feel that it was mine to do. This was mine to do. And yet here I was at this event. And so I said, I can't come right now. What's the latest? What if I came about 9:30, 10 o'clock tonight? And they said, that'd be perfect. And so practice, right? I've never done this before. I had no idea what I was going to do. Norm asks me, well, what are you going to do when you get there? And I'm like, we'll find out. But I needed to stay present here, practice, right? So that's happening at between 9:30 and 10. Before that, I have the appreciation dinner. Part of the practice is saying, instead of letting my mind keep wandering to that, stay here with everybody who's here first. Have you had a situation in which you had something else that was important you needed doing, so it made it hard for you to stay present to where you were then? Practice. It always comes back to practice. I have been practicing this. And so I was able to stay present and go, okay, that's then, this is now. This is now. And was able to stay here with everybody in the room from 7 to 9. Stay very present with everybody so that we could have. Ash did a wonderful job of basically emceeing the thing and talking, getting everybody to share the way they did. People loved the food. It went very well. And then it was done. And the second it was done, I was like, time to move on. I didn't feel any bad feelings about it, or I should hang out and be with people longer. It was time to move on. Practice. The way you get to do this is by practice. This is why it's transformational. This was transformational for me. I'd never done this before. And yet trusted that, of course, since I got the call, this was mine to do. That of course I could do this in a good way, having no clue what that would look like. I mean, no clue. And so I announced that I was leaving for a hospital visit, and all the volunteers said, we got this. And they cleaned up the room, took care of everything, and I went on my way. It was beautiful, right? I get to the hospice. It wasn't in the hospital. It was actually in a hospice. I go in to where the woman is. And I sit down, and I put my hand on her arm, and all of a sudden I'm hearing songs in my head, songs that I'd never heard before. And I start singing to her, lullabies about going home into the arms of God. All these words just kept coming to me. It was beautiful. I had no idea what was going on, but I was being that channel. Just sitting there, allowing this to happen. And all of a sudden, I start feeling another presence in the room. And then more than one. And I start telling her, there's people here waiting for you on the other side. I could feel them. There are people here waiting for you on the other side. And I put it into song. And I could feel her fear. She was unconscious, but I could feel her fear. And just stayed there with her. Just stayed there with her. Until I thought, okay, I've done my part here. I called her daughter and asked, because I could feel this presence in the room. And she told me that her dad had died already. And I knew it was him. The husband, standing, waiting. It was right there. It was one of the most beautiful things I'd ever been a part of. It allowed me to feel my own sense of sensitivity. Do you know what I mean? I was just so sensitive there with her. Could feel all of it and express it easily. There was nothing forced. There was nothing strained. It was clear the beginning. It was clear the end. And then I came home. And I just thought, I got to be a part of that. And they wrote me afterwards and thanked me for what I'd done and said how beautiful it was. And I just wrote them back and said, actually, I'm the one honored. Because one of the things I've been practicing is my own humility, right? My own compassion, my own sense of not knowing. One of the greatest practices in this teaching is your ability to not know and still trust. Because when you can step into something and you don't know, but you're trusting so deeply, and you know it's yours, what you do know is that it's yours to do, what shows up? That's the awesome I'm talking about. What shows up? That's the awesome. I mean, this has been an extraordinary week for me. So many weeks are these days. And it's because of my willingness to stay deep in these teachings, no matter what out here needs doing. That if I go at it from that place of centeredness and teaching, what happens is extraordinary. That's what's possible. That's what's possible for all of us. That's why I keep talking about classes. That's why I keep talking about this practice, because I keep seeing how it's working for me in my life, that I get to do stuff that I didn't even know I was ever going to get to do. It never dawned on me that I'd get a phone call like that. And yet there it was. And it was gorgeous. That's what's possible for each of us. You get to have that in your life when you're willing to dedicate it to practice, because it's a dedication. It's nothing less than a dedication to saying this comes first. This being centered, this place of being, and this will support me in anything that's happening out here. And will then support others in what they, in whatever is for them. That's our greatest tool of service. Comes from that deeper place that is in each of us right here. Thank you. I love you.